Let's first understand the hardest word in this ayah, which is rahina. That may be a new word for many of you, rahina. Rahina means, it comes from the word rahin, something that is stuck to something else. Let me explain in simple English. Can I borrow your car? And you say, here, take the keys. But, give me your passport. Okay, so now, I'll get my passport back when I return your car. Okay, you go and you rent a car. They're letting you use their car. But what do they want from you? They want your credit card, they want your, they're holding some money back. That's the money they're holding back, that's called rahina, or marhoon, or rahan. That's the rahan. Okay, so that's this word. There's discussions that we don't have to really go into about why is there a ta marbuta on rahina, right? And what that means is it's like something physical you left with somebody, right? Here's my ring. And can I borrow this? Here's my ring. I'll borrow your horse. I'll give you my ring. When I give you back the horse, then because it's something tangible that's being held. Now that I've said that, I gave you the example of money that's being held, a ring or whatever else. What's this ayah saying? كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ رَهِينَةٌ. Every person, you and me, everybody, are being held as collateral in exchange for whatever we do. So that's why it's complicated to understand. Okay? So remember in the example, if I borrowed from you, you took my passport. In this example, you're the passport. You're the one being held. And once you give back, you will be released. So the thing that's being captivated or held captive is, or in this case you could say held hostage, right? Because somebody's holding my passport hostage. Somebody's holding the deposit money hostage, and they will release it when the demands are met. In this ayah, who's being held hostage? Every human being is being held hostage. We're already prisoners. Amazing ayah to mention, right after Allah mentioned free will. Allah said, whoever wants, they can step forward. Whoever wants, they can go back. By the way, every one of you is a captive. Held back. Hostage. Held back. Collateral. So how do you free yourself? Allah says, bima kasabat. Oh, bima kasabat, by the way, is muqaddam. So Allah didn't say, kullu nafsin rahinatun bima kasabat. No. Kullu nafsin bima kasabat rahinatun. Every person is being held hostage, being held as collateral, only to be exchanged with what payment? Whatever they earned. Whatever they earned in this life. Whatever deeds they did and whatever they earned. This is pretty heavy. So now let's explain the concept of freedom in Islam. You have freedom of choice, but you don't have freedom of consequence. Let's write that out so you'll remember it. The last ayah was freedom of choice. This is not freedom of consequence. Everything I do in this life, everything I do is an attempt to free myself from the invisible prison I'm already in, the prison of consequences. So even though I pretend I'm free, I'm actually stuck to my deeds. I am chained to my deeds. And those deeds are being presented to Allah, who is holding every soul hostage. Either those payments that we make are negative payments, or they are positive payments. A bad deed is a negative payment, a good deed is a positive payment. Every single one of us is actually already in prison. And the only thing that will free us from this prison is what we do in this life. What we earn with Allah in this life. Bima kasabat rahina. So in the previous ayah, I am entirely responsible for my choices. And in this ayah, I am entirely responsible for whatever I earn in this life. I'm responsible. Bima kasabat. If you understand this, what this means is, the starting point for us is that we're in trouble. The reality is not we're okay. The reality is we are in trouble. And the only way to get out of trouble is to pay your way out. And the only payment Allah will accept is what? The good you earn. Bima kasabat. This is exactly what Allah says when He says, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي. So the starting point for humanity, they are in loss. Human beings are in loss. Mahbus, kept in prison. Literally, مُعَدٌّ مَحْبُوس عَلَيْهِ. Now, if that is the case, then a Muslim can see somebody else who thinks they're free. And they're doing whatever they want. And they can see, oh my God, they are increasing the price for their release with every negative payment. Your account balance can go negative, right? When your account balance is negative 2,000 and you deposited $2,000, what does it become? Zero. You need to make a $1,000 payment to be released. But you're already at negative 2,000. And now you're at negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, and negative. Oh my God. Could it be that somebody, the payment to make to be released was very little? But the problem is, you went too far into the negative. You understand? So now you don't owe $10, you owe 10 million and $10. Right? But what does Allah do for people that are so deep in debt with Allah, and their collateral is huge? Allah says, just make tawbah, I'll wipe it all out. I'll just multiply it by 0. In fact, if it was 10 million in the negative, I'll turn it 10 million in the positive. If you just make tawbah. One thing, one tawbah. Just sincerely turn back to Allah. You're free. Our turning to Allah is our freedom. And it's not just a freedom in akhirah. It's ultimately a freedom in akhirah. But I would argue this ayah is also an ayah about dunya. Every person is being held hostage by the things that they do. People are being held hostage by their alcohol. People are being held hostage by their sex addiction, by their pornography. People are being held hostage by their drugs. People are being held hostage by their wasting time, whatever their vices, whatever their crimes are. They're held hostage by that. They're drowning themselves in it. And the only people that are actually living free from these addictions, from these vices, which we're told are you're free to surf the web. You're free to go on social media. But if you put your phone away, if you've been watching social media a long time, a young person, 14, 15-year-old, watching whatever they're watching, and you take their phone away, what happens to that teenager? They just got anxious, they have tantrums, they start having emotional breakdowns, all kinds of crazy stuff starts happening, Why? Because they're actually a prisoner of that device. They're actually not free at all. They're not free. Just like, our bodies are not free from food. So if you deprive us of food, we have to go run after it. Right? We're imprisoned by the food. Now the world has created addictions and we're imprisoned. Human beings are imprisoned by these addictions. There are people that are imprisoned by the need to impress someone. They live in that prison. That's what they want to earn. And they're just buried under it. All their life, just want to impress someone. Other people are imprisoned by paranoia. The brothers of Yusuf were imprisoned by the need to know that they are loved more, because love to them was a scorecard. Right? Dad loves Yusuf more. How do you know Dad loves Yusuf more? You checked inside his heart, there's a meter? Like a health bar in Street Fighter? Right? How do you know he loves him more? Well, I don't know. And they got rid of him and he still loves him more. How do you know he loves him more? But I just need to know. I need to just do something about that. They're imprisoned by their need. Their psychological dependence on someone. Their anger towards. Some people are imprisoned by anger. Some people are imprisoned by regret. Kullu nafsin bima kasabat rahina. People are living in prisons. There's a prison coming in akhirah. But man, human beings are so good at creating prisons for themselves in this life. We're so good at it. And this ayah is saying, you were not put in that prison. It's your own prison. And the only one to free you from that is who? You, by what you can do. So you can actually do things to take you further in prison, or you can earn your way out of prison. If you just think about life, freedom in that sense. Why do people get so disturbed when they see a woman in hijab? They say, you're free. Why aren't you free? You're oppressed. Right? They're so upset. I happen to have conversations with women that don't, non-Muslim women, that don't cover their work in the corporate environment. I say, tell me about, your workplace. What's the hardest part? They say, getting ready for work. Several women told me, getting ready for work is the hardest part. I was like, why? Why is that so hard? Just brushing your teeth that difficult? No, I have to do so much makeup. You have to dress a certain way. I was like, what does it mean, dress a certain way? She goes, you know. It's like, what do you, I don't know. What do you mean? She goes, look, if you don't look a certain way, you're not going to get ahead. So I was like, let me ask you something. We're not talking about it. Let me ask you something. Do you feel imprisoned by this entire set of expectations? She goes, yeah, guys are so free. They can just dress however they want and they can just go and be fine and we can't just do that. Yeah. Wow. And you're telling women that don't have to do that they're imprisoned. But you're imprisoned. And you're dying in those prisons. Right? كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ رَهِينَ. Why? And what our generation, Muslims, forget about non-Muslims. I'm not here to make you feel good about talking bad about non-Muslims. I want you to feel bad about you. Like, man, we create these stupid standards. And then we're going to die if those standards are not met. What should a wedding look like? Now we created the standard. The standard was revealed from Instagram. And now if you don't get that kind of wedding, this is the worst day of my life. Why? Why? We've created prisons for ourselves that didn't need to exist. And we've made ourselves hostages. And then we're willing to do anything to keep ourselves in those prisons. Islam comes and just liberates. The only one you have to be enslaved to is Allah. And yes, you are being held hostage for your bad deeds. And you can do good deeds to free yourself. Just become people. Your entire purpose in life is, am I doing the right thing? Your purpose is no longer, am I doing the popular thing? Am I doing the fashionable thing? Am I doing the most money-making thing? Am I doing the competitive thing? Those questions start disappearing. The only main question left is, am I doing the right thing? That's it. Am I earning the right thing? That's all. That's all. Man, what a worldview. And that's freedom. I'm free to do the right thing while everybody else is in prison. The only prison, the only surrender we should accept is the surrender to Allah. And I tell you, the Qur'an's philosophy is amazing. We call ourselves slaves of Allah, right? We call ourselves slaves of Allah. And Qur'an is describing, you're gonna be a slave no matter what. But you decide what you want to be a slave to. You will be a slave to fashion, slave to money, slave to people, slave to culture, slave to standards, slave to whatever, slave to popularity, slave to your ego, or slave to Allah. If you don't choose Allah, there'll be something else you'll be a slave to. But if you choose Allah, you'll be free from all the other slaveries. That's freedom. It will free you from all of them. That's truly called breaking chains. And Allah says, but the reality is every human being, even when it comes to Allah, now there's only one thing. We're all tied up. We're not actually free. Every deed we're doing is either breaking. Imagine there's thousands of chains on me. Every good deed that I'm doing is breaking one of those chains, or every bad deed that I'm doing is adding one of those chains. And I don't even see those chains. And then Judgment Day comes and all those chains appear. That's kullu nafsin bima kasabat rahina. It's only because of what they are earning, what they're doing, they are being held hostage. SubhanAllah. This is an amazing, amazing reality check. It's an incredible reality check. And it's Allah's way of telling you and me, nobody put us in a prison. We did.